Little did Teldon Moore know there was life beyond Kryn's moons, until a crashed spelljamming ship demolished his farm and changed his life. With the dying alien's magical cloak and cryptic words, Teldon quickly discovers that he's a popular fellow. He and his gift companion race to find help before the Naogi can find them. Hello and welcome to Liam's Lyceum. I am your host Liam, aka Himbar, and today I'll be doing a spoiler-free review of David Cook's Beyond the Moons. Beyond the Moons is a 1991 novel and book 1 in the hexalogy titled The Cloakmaster Cycle, which is written actually by 5 different authors, and it is the only Spelljammer series for the Spelljammer D&D setting, of course. Now, for those unaware, Spelljammer is a science fantasy D&D setting. Specifically, it invokes adventures in space, but with fantastic elements instead of scientific ones. So the term space fantasy has actually been used, and it probably works better than science fantasy. Though there are guns, which most D&D settings don't have, or if they do have them, it's very minimal. For example, the ships they use resemble galleons or more exotic ships. They use helms that jam with spell magic to power themselves into space, as opposed to windjammers from the Age of Sail. This system was created by Jeff Grubb, who seems to draw inspiration from the Age of Sail, Ptolemaic astrophysics of astronomy, and the likes of Jules Verne's sci-fi. This space travel actually is used to connect with the other settings. So this novel, for example, is set in Dragonland, so on the planet Kryn, while book 2 is set on the planet Toril, that of the Forgotten Realms. The story starts with the Penumbra being pursued through space, and it is badly damaged, and it must make an emergency landing on the continent of Ansalon on the planet Kryn. And this brings us to our main character, Teldon Moore, a farmer from the south of Calaman. He is farming melons with his neighbor Liam, who cries that he sees a dragon, but this turns out to be even more exotic than a dragon. Teldon himself is a retired soldier, one who barely saw combat because he's a mule skinner, which means I think he just handled the mules. But he was at the Battle of the High Claris Tower during the War of the Lance, the battle being a part of Dragons of Winter Night, book 2 of the Dragonlance Chronicles. But based off his peasant status, it was likely he was part of the auxiliary brigade present. He was also at the Battle of Calaman, which I'm not actually sure where that is, since I haven't read anything about it. The Penumbra crashes onto his land, and he meets several strange beings, such as some dying woman who warns Teldon of the Naogi and gives him an odd cloak. I'm not actually sure what race she is. She might be a Gith, but I really don't actually know. He also meets an alien Gif with an F rather than a TH, Trooper Gamja. Gif are basically bipedal hippos, which you can actually see on the back of the cover there. So besides Naogi, a Gif, we have small appearances from elves, dwarves, minotaurs, gnomes. My favorite side characters were Quailanis and Lucian, and you don't get a lot of them. I mean, you kind of do. It's interesting how it works. I'm kind of a sucker for some of these things, though. And they're side characters. I doubt we'll ever see them again in book 2. But this is an interesting novel, I thought. It wasn't... I think some people have been disappointed with how little of it actually is like spelljamming content. Like, there's guns, there's this cloak that he gets from this dying lady, right? And that seemingly is something to do from outer space, but... and then the Naogi, who are the bad guys, the big bads from Spelljammer setting, I suppose, are chasing after him for the cloak. But it's really a call to action at the very beginning, and one that doesn't immediately send Teldon on a grand quest, or at least he doesn't seem like he's consciously on some grand quest, because most of the story, actually, you could probably say just about all of it is him running away from a quest. It's the refusal of the call, and that's essentially the entire book. Now, it's still a grand journey, but his quest is to get I guess you could say his quest is to get the cloak off, but that doesn't seem like much of a quest. He's not like, literally, he's not like a good guy in that sense. Beware, there is a map at the beginning that shows the entire route to the story if you don't want to look at that. The back of the book also spoils kind of where they end up going, so don't look at that if you don't want to be spoiled. But it was nice that they traveled through some parts of the Dragonlance setting that I was actually somewhat familiar with from other books, and at times it felt very peaceful and somewhat adventurous and deadly, and It was just kind of a nice, homey feeling book, even though I think some people would find it probably boring a lot. There's a lot of this book where really nothing's happening, or not very much is happening. I think the GIF, Trooper Gamja, really makes this book shine, though. He's a really good character, and like I said, I enjoyed the side characters of Quaylanis and Lucian as well, and Liam wasn't too bad either. I mean, that is my name either way. Anyways, thanks for listening. This is Liam's Lyceum. If you want to talk more about D&D, Spelljammer maybe, they are coming out with 5th edition Spelljammer now. Just join the Discord. I'll link it down below. I'll catch you next time.